John Forsyth here. Did you know you have rights? Well, the Constitution says you don't? There's actually not a lot in the Constitution about voting or elections in general. So, let me introduce to you the Election Reform Amendment. Well, actually amendments, because it got too long and I had to break it into like 6 amendments. These proposed amendments cover what I believe to be some of the biggest issues with the election process, and they all work in tandem with each other, so hopefully they all pass at the exact same time. So without further ado, let's go over all of them, beginning with... Currently, the only requirements to vote in this country are that you're a citizen and you're over the age of 18 and you aren't a felon. You're unable to vote if you're a felon, if you're under the age of 18, if you live in one of the United States territories, and you're not registered to vote. And I think these should change. So, who should vote? Well, I think just about everybody. The disqualification for being a felon has always been used to disenfranchise minority groups such as black people or Latin Americans. If you're a minority, the chances are that you are going to get a harsher punishment for something like misdemeanor possession of marijuana, and say you accidentally let slip that you were going to give some to your friends, well then that's a felony, possession with intent to distribute. Under the 20th Amendment, we account for this. Every felon will have the right to vote except for those charged with crimes against the government, that being terrorism, espionage, subversion, insurrection, and treason. The age of 18 being the minimum requirement to vote is a pretty good one. It came up during the Vietnam War, where if we said if 18-year-olds are allowed to die for our country, they should also be allowed to vote. That's a good idea, but I think times have changed. Any 16-year-old is more well-informed today than George Washington was back in 1776. As a result, this amendment lowers the voting age to 16. While they're legally referred to as U.S. citizens, residents of the U.S. territories are not allowed to vote in American elections. This amendment would give the right to vote to citizens of territories that are both organized and unincorporated. So that means Puerto Rico, Guam, the U.S. Virgin Islands, the Mariana Islands, and American Samoa. If another territory reaches organized unincorporated status, they would also have that same right to vote. And lastly, registration is a big issue. Some states have very far deadlines to register, like you have to register by October 1st instead of the day of, and other states have the day of. This is one of the main reasons why turnout rates vary so much from state to state. The solution to this problem is simple. All citizens will be automatically registered to vote once they turn 16, like how now you're automatically signed up for the draft at the age of 18. This registration can only be voided if the person in question commits one of the disqualifying felonies from earlier. Now that we've covered who can vote, let's look at the process by which elections are run, because there's a lot to fix there. My proposal for the 29th Amendment covers gerrymandering. It's possibly the biggest issue facing elections in America right now. The Supreme Court's decision in Louisiana v. Calais recently gutted the Voting Rights Act. The decision created a precedent in which there's absolutely nothing stopping state lawmakers from making the votes of black people insignificant. The solution to gerrymandering that I've come up with is to enact strict rules on how voting districts can be drawn. Based on the most recent census, a panel of citizens who have never held a government office, be that elected or appointed, will be the ones to draw new districts proportionally based on population size. The districts they draw will not be able to divide through a municipality, which is a city or a town or otherwise. If there's not land belonging to any municipality, then it will be divided equally among the districts in order to have a filled map, so there's not just a bunch of splotches of federal land. So it'll begin at the next census, which as of the recording of this video is the 2030 census, and then it'll repeat every 10 years after that. I think the solution works because it removes as much bias as possible regarding political redistricting. I plan on this amendment being concurrent between both the federal and state level, so it can allow harsh punishments for those who don't follow the rules. There are 353 votes in total to be had in the Electoral College. Every state and DC gets at least 3, 2 for their senators and 1 for each representative. This opens it up to a fairly large oversight. If you do the math, some states have way more electoral power than they really need to have. Take Montana, for example. At the time I'm talking these words into the camera, they have 4 electoral votes. If you divide that by the number of voting citizens in their state, then you can see they have a pretty strong voting power, a ratio of 1 to 2,000. Now take the state with the largest amount of electoral votes, being California at 54. If you put 54 over the number of their voting constituents last election, then you see they have a pretty weak ratio in comparison, about 1 in 5,000. So the average Montanan has about 2.5 times the electoral power as a single Californian. That's crazy. So these two first articles completely eliminate the Electoral College. The number of votes is raised to 1,000 plus the number of territories. Each state plus DC is guaranteed at least one vote, and each territory is limited to one vote. The 1,000 electoral votes are going to be distributed among the states and DC by their population divided by the population of the entire country. And whatever percentage that comes out to will be their percentage of the 1,000 votes. Electoral votes will be awarded proportionally to candidates based on the popular vote in the state. So let's say the winner wins with 54% of the votes and the state has 100 votes. Then the winner gets 54 votes and the loser gets 46. And since this system opens up a lot of opportunity for third-party candidates, the winner of the plurality of votes will win the election. That's different from the majority, because majority is you have more than half, while plurality is you have the most out of all the candidates. Like you have 48 and everyone else has less than that. If they tie, then there's going to be a runoff election where only the two candidates who won will be on the ballot. These changes ensure that the president will be elected more similarly to the value of one person, one vote, because the system we have in place right now just doesn't guarantee that. It also encourages everyone who can vote to do so, because everyone's vote is worth substantially more than it was in the Electoral College. Campaign finance is a huge issue in the process of elections. Billionaires like Elon Musk and Larry Ellison make a hobby out of buying local and federal election results. Of the many ways they do this, the biggest one is the Super PAC. These groups, whose existence was established by Citizens United, the FEC, are allowed to spend as much money as they want on political campaigns because they are people. I've therefore come up with a way to curb the amount of campaign spending. Here's the main rule. Any organization that donates 20% or more of their income to political campaigns or political parties or political candidates must release their full registry of donors on their tax returns. Individuals are allowed to donate up to $1,000 to a political campaign or a party before they must break their anonymity. Rule 3, and this is just a loophole, government organizations are not allowed to contribute to political campaigns. Duh. Rule 4, and this is a big one that they do anyway, but it's better to put it in the Constitution. Political campaigns and parties must disclose their donors. And the way this works with Rule 2 is that they must disclose their donors who have donated over $1,000. These rules are designed to encourage citizens and organizations to donate smaller amounts of money. I made the bar of anonymity 20% because I wanted to limit spending by making it so if you donated more than that, you rip the anonymity away from the donors who wish to remain anonymous because they don't want you knowing they donated to AIPAC. By moving the anonymity elsewhere, it encourages more sensible donation of money. Now let's talk about the length of campaigns, everyone's literally least favorite part about them. The spending of billions of dollars per campaign causes the campaign season to last for months in advance of the election they're trying to win. This causes fatigue among voters, as by the time that election day arrives, everyone just wants it to be over already. This results in fewer people voting. So to increase turnout, we're gonna limit the campaign season. Rule number 1, digital advertisements for political campaigns cannot air more than 20 days before the election. Rule number 2, political events for the purpose of supporting a candidate may not be held more than 2 months before an election. Rule number 3, debates between candidates for office cannot occur more than 10 days before an election. These rules hopefully result in higher turnout. I tried to model this after Japan, where the political season only lasts 12 days, but to me that seems a bit narrow given everything we do here. In my opinion, 2 months is a good length. Additionally, beginning digital advertisements 20 days before the election allows political campaigns ample time to campaign to the unengaged voter, while also not overstaying their welcome. Well, there you have it. That's just about everything I could think of to reform the electoral system. Hopefully some of these changes will happen. Will they ever? Probably not. But we just have to wait and see. Actually, you don't have to wait and see. You can contact your senators and representatives about it. If any of these reforms sound like a good idea to you, you should contact your representative about it. They each have their own website, and you can find contact info for their office on them, and ask them to consider these reforms, but if you don't like them, ask them to consider other reforms that you want to happen. Okay, bye.